This week's episode is sponsored by Pelican.
You're listening to the B&H Photography Podcast. For 50 years, B&H has been the professional source for photography, video, audio, and more. For your favorite gear, news, and reviews, visit us at bnh.com or download the B&H app to your iPhone or Android device. Now here's your host, Alan Weitz.
Greetings and welcome to the B&H Photography Podcast. My name is Alan Weitz.
And I'm Jill Waterman.
Do you ever struggle balancing the time you spend on your personal projects with work that actually pays the bills? If so, you won't want to miss two inspiring stories in this week's podcast, which we recorded earlier this year at B&H's 2023 Depth of Field Conference. We're going to start with architectural shooter Ashok Sinha, who wove his personal love for mid-century architecture and classic cars into the crowd-pleasing book Gas Glamour. After the break, professional pet photographer Anabel DFlux describes how she fashioned a penchant for pets into a photographic success. But for now, here's Ashok. Okay, we are back once again at Depth of Field 2023, and we're with Ashok Sinha, who has actually been with us on at least two other occasions, I would say, right?
I've been on when it first all started.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
You are a veteran. You should be one of those little pins anymore. You could have been one of those little official pins.
That's not a bad idea.
So anyway, what are you up to these days? What brings you back to Depth of Field?
So actually, the last time we talked, I was working on a personal project because I love mid-century architecture, Los Angeles, and cars.
Right.
And all those three things came together in the form of a book called Gas Glamour.
Yes.
Which got published, believe it or not, a good time to get books published was November of 2020. And now we're in the second edition of the book. So I'm here at Depth of Field to talk about how I took that personal project into a book and into the other things I've done beyond the book. So, in terms of digital work or NFTs and that kind of stuff.
Okay. Oh, wow. So we have what to talk about here. Now, you produced this book, and it's in its second printing, so therefore you sold out the first one. That's successful. What are some of the things you might give as pointers for people working on books? Because, again, there's a lot of photography books out there, and what we might think is a fabulous idea may not resonate with the rest of the planet. So you did a book, and you had a good concept with a definite theme. The parameters were very clear. How did it match up to what you expected? Did it go beyond it? And what kind of little surprises did you have along the way?
I want to start by saying I did exceed expectations in a lot of different ways. I was very, very skeptical about doing a book because I know a lot of photographers and friends who've done books.
And eat them for breakfast.
The overwhelming kind of feeling of, the whole process. I have a busy studio, so I wasn't ready to devote the amount of time that required. And I, obviously, since I come from an editorial background, I first think of, it's going to be a great article or a photo essay or something. And I was expecting just that, and I didn't really mean what it meant to make it into a book. But I started showing the project to publishers, and some publishers said, we should publish a book. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then the seed got planted because I figured what I was working on had a longer, pun intended, shelf life in terms of subject matter than just a fleeting article. And as I started working on this project, I really got to kind of get firsthand experience of that. Even the people I was interacting said, what you're doing is important because, people do talk about it, but it was meant for an audience I wanted to connect to. I wanted to connect to beyond the design audience who are very, very well aware and conversant about what is going on in terms of this style of architecture and what it meant in terms of the culture in Los Angeles, which I have connections to, as well as car culture. But outside of that, like the lay people, even my wife who's from Los Angeles, really didn't know why these things were there or important. And I really wanted to make it a book that was kind of a democratic in nature, that would appeal to a lot of different audiences, not just a design audience. And I think that and the timing and the sense of escapism in the book and the whimsy in the book made it people wanted to know more about these things. And I didn't want to keep any secrets, so I just wanted to share this information because that was a sense of discovery that drove me to do the project in the first place.
If you were to start over again, what's something you would not do that you did do the first time around for the book, either with the creative process or the publishing process, anything like that? What did you not expect that came up?
I would not overthink. And I think that almost killed the project because I was overthinking at one point, even before doing the book. I was this close to saying, okay, there are too many things out there. I can't do this because there's too much. And I almost killed the idea. But then I met an architect who said, listen, you are passionate about this subject matter in a way that nobody else is. Nobody's going to see the way things you would do, no matter what it is. Just go for it and do it. And if the work is strong, and I see the work is strong, don't worry about what it means and who's going to see it. You're not doing it for somebody else. I mean, yes, to a certain extent, but this is a personal project. This is not directed by my client or anybody else. How to manifest it into a book is a whole other, kind of commerce part of it, right? But overthinking almost made this book not happen because we always have these ideas in our head and we always think like, I think it's a great idea. The next day you try to poke holes and say, no, I don't think that's a great idea anymore. And then the days go by and you say, I'm not doing it.
So who pulled you back from the abyss? Was it your self-realizations or did somebody else grab you by the collar and say, come back here, you're okay?
An architect who's a preservationist, he does great work in New York, and he was dealing with he was publishing a book, and he said, listen, his topic is, you believe in this idea, go for it. Do the best. It doesn't have to be perfect. Of course, you are a perfectionist, and all photographers and all artists are, but there's a certain limit to that perfectionism that will kill your ideas.
Nothing is perfect, just don't abuse the rule.
Right.
No. So here's another question for you. This is about architecture and automobiles. What is your primary driver here? What gets you? Are you a car guy first, or are you a architecture design person?
Oh, car guy first, of course.
Okay.
Of course. I mean, that's been my thing about Los Angeles ever since I've been to LA. And even as a kid, I was drawn to cars. Just the sense of design that's in cars and the culture around it. And I think the architecture part of it comes later because then you start realizing, I mean, obviously, Los Angeles being the mecca of car culture, the original car city, right?
Yes, more cars than people, I think.
Right, and more importantly, I mean, back in the day, in the mid-century, where there were no highways, so you had a whole other surface street in Los Angeles that was used, and there were, things that were built to draw the attention of the motorist. I mean, when you start looking at those things and how the graphic design, how the neon, how the placement of these buildings, and everything played into the psyche of getting you in there, buying that burger, buying a cup of coffee, whatever it is, you're like, wow, this is like really amazing advertising and very smart and very classic. I mean, people might think this architecture is tacky, but it's not. It's space age, it's whimsical, it's inspirational, kind of like, it motivates people when you see it. It makes you happy. So.
Have you ever been down to Wildwood, New Jersey?
I have. I mean, I have been to other parts. It's a different animal. But
the Canadian Riviera, as it's also known, yes.
Yeah. I have a place on the Jersey Shore. I go quite far from Wildwood, but I've made the trek down there just because I wanted to see how the East Coast manifestation of it is. And I know a photographer does great work in Wildwood, but he doesn't play on what I at least perceive of Wildwood. He's a local and he sees things differently. And I like that aspect of it, to make a story that only you can make, not that you're trying to emulate. I mean, you obviously have photographers you obviously look up to,
right?
And you get styles or artists, painters, whoever it may be. But the story is your own. That's the bottom line of doing any successful project.
What car would you kill for?
Oh my God, that's like a hard one. Maybe a 55 T-Bird.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay.
Yeah. Not a 57, 55.
Man knows his T-Birds. Okay.
So how are the cars and the architecture, what's the relationship between them in the book? How are they integrated?
So, if you look at these design elements, for example, the use of glass, right? You drive by at the end of the day from work and you see this gleaming coffee shop, just lit from inside out, and you want to go inside. It just draws you in. The use of neon, how the signage was placed. And then, for example, there's a coffee shop in my book called Chips, and the letters were actually angled in the direction of traffic. So when you drive past it, you read the word Chips at assuming 30 to 45 miles an hour you're driving by. So these design nuances, the use of color, the use of materials,
reflection,
everything. I have a photo of a car dealership, and it was the original prototype of how we see car dealerships today. For example, the use of glass, and it's almost these cars are displays as objects, and you want to get them. So as I worked on this project, I noticed typography and graphic design, but typography, I mean, such a big role in these buildings and the design of them, and what you can read at that speed too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Did you integrate written word? Was there like a foreword or certain writers?
Yeah.
Did
Yes.
you write or you hired somebody else?
So I talk about it in my presentation, the use of collaborators. I mean, any project is so important because, I bring a certain idea to the project, but there are other experts and other people that you want to work with because they bring a different, and the whole product is better. In this case, I didn't want it to be text heavy. There was a crossroads in this project where I said I could take the academic route or I take the general audience route. And I said, I'm going to go general audience because I want to appeal to regular people. So I want them to be going to these places, appreciating this architecture and the culture, and maybe preserving some of these sites, right? So speaking of collaborators, I had 3 short essays in the book. One was written by an architect, one by a curator, and one by me. And the captions of the book were written by another editor, but very magazine-y. So it had very interesting anecdotes about each of these places, but very, very short. The pictures kind of did the talking.
Nice. And who published the book?
Kierer Verlag in Germany.
Sure.
Yeah.
And what was it like working with them? Did they give you certain requests or demands or what?
Yeah, it was, I think, as a publishing house, they were very easy to work with, and we had a lot of good flow of ideas. Given that the extra challenge was we had the pandemic to deal with, because when we decided to print, the original print schedule date was right in the middle of the pandemic. And honestly, we didn't know what was going on. But I think, it was a very collaborative process in terms of design ideas and also what we could accomplish given a certain budget for the book. How big do you want the book to be? How large do you want a book to be? And we had to come to a middle ground. Again, keep in mind, this is my first project, so I was being careful. I didn't know whether this book is going to succeed or it's going to be just like piles of books. So I took their advice, and they never once demanded anything. That was the cool part. They never said that this is what we want. They had recommendations, some ideas like of book titles and stuff like that. They said, I think we like this title. And it was good because, they have the knowledge and expertise and I didn't. So I was going with my gut, and
you have to let go a little bit sometimes. You have to.
Oh, totally. You can't have egos and you can't hold on to anything because at the end of the day, I think everybody's trying to make a successful project. And if you have that idea that, it's my way or the highway, then you probably should consider something else because it will not be a good relationship.
Yeah. Excellent points. What's the actual physical size for the book? What'd you go with?
Good question. I think it's a 14 by 11 landscape.
Okay, so it's a good size. Okay,
Yeah.
and hardcover?
Hardcover. It has about 70 pages, so not that meaty, but the pictures are full bleeds.
Yeah.
And then in the nifty thing which we did, which is a great example of collaboration, is that we did these QR codes of the locations of these coffee shops and drive-ins, whatnot, because a lot of people after they bought the book made these nifty Google Maps, and they saw Los Angeles in a different light that you'd never get to see.
Excellent.
Nice.
Now that is a great use of technologies in publishing.
Yeah.
That is great.
Because for me, it was always the sense of discovery, and I wanted to share that with everybody because that was what drove my project. And I figured, the more people go to these places, the chances are business is great, and they'll survive.
Yeah. Well, speaking of technology, you mentioned something about NFTs. How did NFTs integrate?
So I've been thinking about this whole NFT thing for a couple of years, not knowing enough about what this is about and not knowing whether I'm even going to be part of this.
Like the rest of us.
Yes. I really couldn't. But then I sat down and I did this whole thing over the summer. I said, all right, maybe one day I'll try it. But then one thing I realized is I need to, again, have a good partner in order to launch something because I didn't want to be one in the sea of, I don't know how many millions or zillions NFTs are out there. And why am I even doing this, right? But then I was approached by a platform called Sloika, and they do only photography NFTs. Great people. I met the founder, and they were really into this book. And we said, hey, why don't we just do a limited edition launch of only one of one editions of the NFTs at a slightly higher price than they would sell. So I launched it, I sold one NFT, and I said, this is for real. It's given me an outlet of thinking about this differently, and I find, met collectors through that process. Even if people didn't collect, there was a great conversation, led to something else.
You're keeping a dialogue going.
Yeah.
And that's half the battle, keeping everything alive in a dialogue and keeping it alive.
Yeah, and I think that's also in terms of whenever I approach booksellers in the US and whatnot, I think it was more of like, I'm not going to flood it with like 20 emails. I'm just going to meet someone who I met in a conference and I said, hey, you know what? You're a cool guy. You're a great bookshop in New Mexico. I'm going to reach out to you because I think you'll be interested in my book. And that's usually one-on-one it happened because I wanted to have the dialogue and I want to have this thing be relevant in the sense. And so, it became a massive billboard in the middle of Los Angeles by Staples Center for a whole month. That kind of stuff just happened because of dialogue.
Right.
Any exhibits or manifestations of the print?
Yeah, absolutely. So Center for Book Arts did an exhibit in the very beginning when the book came out with the book. It was really successful with the prints and the book on display.
This is in Los Angeles?
No, Center for Book Arts in New York.
Okay.
And then I had a very interesting collaboration with a fashion brand in Japan. Actually, it's a Hollywood fashion brand, but their headquarters are now in Japan, even though they're from West Hollywood. And they had this whole California lifestyle kind of thing. And they came upon my work and I said, hey, this is amazing. This speaks to our brand. And they ended up funding a lot of the book. And we did a whole, how many months was it? Almost a year-long exhibition in 20 cities in Japan.
Wow, that's great.
And then through a couple of galleries I work with, we did a couple of shows. Maybe we'll do some more. I'm all about ideas and doing new things.
You still into this? Is this the theme or you want to a new project already?
Oh, no. Actually, I have other projects already brewing, kind of related to the book, but not really, because I want to do something different.
That's why I was asking you. Yeah. Okay. That's why I was asking.
I've been toying around with kind of doing like a sculptural kind of form with photography and finding time to do it. I have some things I want to photograph, make it into sculptures, that kind of stuff, paper art. So theme of cars.
Okay, we just want because we're going to take your temperature otherwise if it was not. Okay, all right. So you're still on track. You have your priorities straight.
I have my priorities straight. I did an interesting architectural shoot for a client, editorial client, and this has been very popular. And there have been talks about making it into a book, but honestly, I don't know if I'll have the energy or the time to pursue it. But hey, you never know. It's pretty cool. I love that project. So.
It's nice to know there are options out there, though. That's the cool thing about it.
Yeah, for sure. I think if New York being an amazing place, generally people you meet you resonate with because of just the sincerity of the work you do. Mm-hmm. I think that's the beautiful thing.
Yeah. And so the second printing just recently came out, or when was that?
It came a little late because we are delayed by some shortages in Europe. But I think the official date was January 6th or 16th, one of those
so
two dates.
So just last month.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We are only...
And
yes.
How many copies? Was it a bigger run or the same?
I think it's a bigger run. Yeah, it's a bigger run because
nice.
As successful as it's been in the U.S., I think it's a bigger success story in Europe. That's what I hear. So there's some other options in Europe and in Japan especially also.
Yeah.
I did want to make some changes to the second edition.
Did you?
I did want to because there's a lot more images that were shot for this, and I would have liked to see it in a bigger shape and form. But you know what? I'm just going to go with what the...
Well, there's always number 3.
That's what I've been told.
And NFTs.
Exactly.
There you go.
We shall see. We shall see.
So if our listeners would like to catch up and see what the heck we've been talking about here, where can they go to?
There's sort of a mini website for the book called gasandglamour.com, or they can reach out to me or go to my website. I'm sure the B&H YouTube channel or the website will have something. Mm-hmm. But I'm happy to share it on my Instagram, which is my handle, Ashok Sinha Photo. It's a mouthful, but I'm sure you can figure it out.
We'll have all of that in our show notes also, so people will be able to click on them and see exactly what the heck we've been talking about here. And I strongly urge our listeners to do so. Anyway, Ashok Sinha, a pleasure having you, I think, for episode number 3 of our show. And we look forward to having you back again because your work's exciting and just your excitement
Thank you.
shows very well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity for being here.
Okay, we're going to go walk the dog and channel pets. When we return, we're going to explore the finer points of human-animal communication with Anabel DFlux, who emphasizes the importance of making every photo shoot into a positive experience, no matter the subject. Don't touch that dial. We will be right back.
If you're a photographer or videographer traveling light, the 22-inch Pelican 1535 Air case can fit in the overhead. But if you need more room, the mid-size 28-inch 1595 Air accommodates a bigger camera rig. For an even larger load, the wheeled 33-inch 1615 Air will keep your checked luggage safe. Each Pelican Air model can utilize different inserts of your choice, including soft dividers, pick-and-pluck foam, or Trek Pack-style dividers. Pelican Air cases are ultra-lightweight, durable, and perfect for all your photography, videography, and consumer entertainment needs. Head on over to bnh.com to find the perfect Pelican Air case for all your gear.
Okay, we are back once again at Depth of Field 2023, sponsored by B&H Photo. We are delightfully joined by Anabel DFlux. And Anabel is a pro pet photographer. Pro pet means you only photograph professional pets.
I do only photograph professional pets. Like, they have to come up into my studio with a resume.
Got you.
And if it doesn't match, then no.
Because amateur dogs just don't cut it.
Yeah, I mean, a dog has to at least have a bachelor's, but a cat can have an associate's and it's fine. I won't even look at it. A horse needs a PhD, though.
I love it. So you photograph pets predominantly, animals.
Yes.
Let's qualify that. Okay, it's animals, right?
Yes,
Okay.
I do photograph a lot of animals. I mean, I'm a photographer who likes to say that I don't have a niche because I photograph everything that inspires me.
As long as it has 4 legs or wings. No, I'm just...
I mean, I have a parrot at home, so don't discriminate against the 4 legs.
You have a 4-legged parrot?
Unfortunately, I only have a 19-year-old parrot who's still going to be with me for the
Wow.
next 50 years.
Oh, this parrot's going to be your friend for a long time.
He is. I
Yeah.
didn't think about that when I was 10.
Yeah. The good news is you don't have to walk it 3 times a day for the next 50 years.
Yes, but the bad news is that he wakes me up at 5 in the morning screaming, and he's going to do that for the next 50
I
years.
have a cat that does it at 4:30. So
Oh,
you want to compare
gosh.
notes?
Okay. Fair. Hey, maybe the two of them should meet.
You never know. This is interesting. We've been talking with people who photograph people all the time. Now, you're photographing animals. Now, how did you get into this niche?
Well, I was always a very artistically inclined child. So
Okay.
by my 8th birthday, most of my family members ran out of artistic gifts to give me because I had tried every medium under the sun. I had done dance and painting and charcoal and everything you can think of. And then my grandfather thought, she hasn't used a camera yet. So I got this little itty bitty red point and shoot from Target when I was wee little. And I had a dog, and my friends had dogs. And you know what? I thought people were kind of boring at the time. So I just photographed animals, and I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with the fact that we can immortalize the emotion that we feel when we look at them. We can document what our relationship with them is, and we can remember all of these beautiful little details that, unfortunately, over time, you start to forget about. Photography has that beautiful power of making sure that you never forget that. You always remember it. And not to make it a downer, because I'm also going to make it an upper right after, but I deeply regret not having enough photos of my childhood dog. Because when she passed is when you realize that you don't have those photos. And it's been 15 years now, and you forget the details.
That's interesting you say that, because we didn't have, dogs or cats or anything growing up, but we had parakeets.
Oh, parakeets.
And I just realized I don't have any photographs of any of them. And I love these birds. They were wonderful. That they were all talked and they were well trained and everything. But I don't have any photographs of them.
It's so important to be able to document it.
Yeah.
And after that I go, no, I have to photograph animals. I love them. I have to. And when I was 15, my mom gave me a little bit of an ultimatum. She goes, I will support you if you can prove to me that photography is an actual career. And you have 2 years to do it.
Wow.
So I was a 15-year-old who had that kind of bug biting my butt to be like, I have to make this into a career. So my mom would drop me off at the local dog park, and I would just sit in the dog park as a 15-year-old because I wasn't driving at the time, and just practicing photography with dogs. And my childhood friend around that time started getting into dog sports with her dogs. So I got introduced to photographing dogs doing agility and rally and obedience and sports like that. And a lot of those trials didn't have a photographer because, to be honest, I think only a 15-year-old would be crazy enough to sit there for 12 hours on their knees being like, my back doesn't hurt. This is fine. And granted, I'm still crazy and do that to this day. And I'm not 15 anymore.
How's your back?
Terrible. But you know what? The smiling faces of the dogs make it so worth it. And talking about documenting those moments, dogs that do the sports do it because they love it. You can't force a dog to do that if they don't love it. And you can just see the joy in their face. And you look at them and you go, well, unfortunately, they don't have an entire lifespan to do that because there comes a point where they also age and they're not able to do that safely. So you're also memorializing those moments, memorializing the dog being able to compete with the owner and having a lot of fun. Because to them, it's a game. We call it a competition. It's just a game. And the beauty of it is that the owners do that to bond with their pets because it's a team effort. You can't do any of those sports without it being a team effort.
But I notice you are connected with a lot of interesting organizations that are tied to pets. Could you name some of them and what they are? Because we're looking through the list and go, we don't know anybody who belongs to we didn't even know these organizations existed.
Yes, organizations for animals do exist. And I have been commissioned by the American Kennel Club, which is the big organization that kind of is a registry for purebred dogs and also hosts the sporting events, the conformation shows, all that good stuff. Basically, if you're seeing a purebred dog, it's probably registered with the AKC. So I've been commissioned by them to do these photos. I've done photos for a variety of dog clubs because in order to have these sporting events, a club has to host it.
Right.
And on the little segue from pet photography, because it's like, it's not really pet photography, but partially falls under the domestic category. Very good friends of mine from many, many years have a nonprofit organization called Judith A. Bassett Canid Education and Conservation Center, which is a huge mouthful, which is why we just call it JABSEC, which is JABCECC, because that is a very long name. But they're a conservation facility for wild canids. So they have foxes, they have wolves, they have coyotes, and we educate the public with them. We show people that these are animals that need to be protected and preserved because the ecosystem will fall apart without them. And so many people have all these false narratives about these kinds of animals. And it's incredible to have an organization where we actually use photography and photo shoots to show that these animals do connect with people. So we actually do photo sessions where people can come and have a fox in their lap. They can pet a wolf and they can see that these animals are not these kind of terrifying predators that everyone looks at them as, but they have a soul and they have feelings and they have emotion and they're those that we need to protect. Photography is so powerful in changing people's minds about animals that they are otherwise terrified of.
It's an interesting thing. I live up in northern Connecticut. We put out bird feeders all the time, even though we have bears in our backyard. But we also have cats, and the cat goes out a few times a day. And every once in a while somebody goes, you shouldn't let your cat out because they kill hundreds of birds. To which I respond, you're absolutely right about that. That's part of nature. And there are birds out there hunting my cat.
Yeah.
Okay?
This
So
is fact.
it's an equal ball game. And we might lose our cat one day, but at least she's being a cat.
Yes, that is the main thing, because what people don't realize when we do these photo shoots with these animals, we don't train them or force them to do anything they don't want to do. And to clarify, the foxes are not your run-of-the-mill outdoor foxes that we just plucked out of the world. They are part of a breeding project that was trying to study domestication of dogs. They're part of the Belya Fox project in Ukraine. And the reason they ended up here is because of what's going on in Ukraine. Right. But what they were doing is they were studying domestication, and they actually found that there is a gene responsible for domestication, which alters the way that the animal looks. So these foxes actually have more dog-like features, even though they are pure foxes.
Wow.
And because of that, because they have a lot of the domestication gene in them, it produces a lot more serotonin in their minds. And they love human companionship as a result. Like, they're still not pets. They're still animals that you don't want in your house.
Exactly.
You cannot give them the stimulation they need in your home as a pet. But they enjoy being in people's laps. They enjoy being pet. They enjoy being given treats. And we're very lucky to be able to have them to teach people about foxes and actually have an animal that will very willingly and gladly go into their lap and want to be pet. Like, we tell everyone who walks in for the photo shoot, get ready because your job is going to be scratching that back as much as you possibly can. And people walk away with so much more appreciation for these animals and go on to educate other people about them. It's a big thing.
Something I'm curious about when you do, say, just portraits of someone's pet, for instance, okay? We all do this. If you have a dog, if you have a cat, I don't know about guinea pigs, but we project ourselves onto it, and we project the human. We expect them to understand us as humans, and everything that they give back is the human response that we're expecting, even though they're in their own planet, obviously. But when you do photographs of that, are you either trying to elicit these human responses from them, or are these the kind of photographs that your clients will respond to where there's more of that human emulation coming back. Has it ever come up at all?
So here's the funny thing. I think we all naturally anthropomorphize animals.
Yeah.
So it's less on even my end because the way that you look at a photo, and it doesn't even have to be a photo of a pet. It can be a photo of anything.
Sure.
You look at a photo and how you're feeling that day is immediately projected onto that image. The way that an image is interpreted has to do with your own personal life experiences, how you're feeling that day, and the way that essentially we view the world. Because we can look at the same photo and come up with two very different conclusions, even if we feel like that photo is very obvious. Animals, I think, are the same way. When we look at a portrait of a pet and we look at their eyes, we're putting on our own personal experiences with that species onto that photo. And I've even noticed this in just my own personal teeny little experiment just for funsies.
Yeah.
Someone who doesn't like dogs. We don't associate with those people, but unfortunately, sometimes they pop up whether you want them to be there or not. And you can show them a photo of a dog that, you and I would look at that photo and go, oh my God, this is a cute little baby. Look at what's the cookie. But someone who doesn't like dogs looks at it and like, it's looking at me real funny. I don't know why that dog's looking at me like that.
Well, Mona Lisa. Some people see a smile. Some people see a scowl.
Exactly. So in terms of people relating to that photo, I feel like it's less on my end in terms of having to force that. But that also has to do with essentially taking a good photo. Because what I teach with anyone who comes to me asking about pet photography is you want the animal to look alert in the photos.
Yeah.
And a great example of this is dog owners. I have a dog that is a perky-eared dog, cutest thing on the planet. Her ears are her best feature. And when she sees me and she's happy, she puts her ears down. She's smiling. It's a doggy version of smiling. If you were to photograph that, though, you're not seeing a smile. You're seeing an animal that looks agitated in the picture and looks scared. And that's because photos don't have context. So therefore, the context that we're bringing into it is, okay, I know you're smiling because your tail is wagging. The photo's not showing that your tail is wagging, but we know. But we have to get those ears up to make sure that that animal looks like they're happy and alert.
As we perceive them being happy.
Exactly.
Yes.
So how do you do that?
It's very much making loud, obnoxious noises that make anyone who walks into a room think you're a crazy person.
And that makes their ears perk
Oh,
up.
It does.
yeah.
And the thing is, they're not perking up because they're alert. They're perking up because they just heard a very strange noise and they can't figure out what that is, which is why that trick only works a handful of times. The animal will get used to that noise and they will stop. But
Sure.
it works with all species, except I found that with horses, actually jingling keys works better. Their ears immediately fly forward because they're a herd animal. They are prey. So they are very alert immediately to any kind of like jarring noise like that. But you also don't want to like scream because you're going to scare the horse. With a dog, they'll just kind of go, huh? But it is noises. It's treats, it's toys, it's anything that gets the pet excited or curious or something that they haven't heard before. Because the moment you get those alert ears, you also get the alert eyes, which is looking usually directly in the direction of the noise. So I
Sure.
actually have pet owners, if their dog is treat motivated, but treat motivated in the sense that they'll sit and look at it, not I'm going to get the entire dog on my face in a moment. I will actually have them put the treat on the lens. Sorry, Sigma. So that the dog will look directly into my glass. Generally speaking, you want them to make eye contact with the lens, which they won't naturally do.
Right.
And that's why you put the treat on that lens.
So generally speaking, they don't really have a response to the camera.
They usually have a scared response. That's the issue, is that if you look at the way that an animal probably interprets a camera lens, there's something scary with an eyeball and it's pointed directly at me. And most animals aren't big fans of eye contact.
Yeah. If you aim a camera, they'll look away. It's a threatening
Yes, it is
thing
a
to
threat,
them.
which is why we look at it as positive conditioning and exposure. It's kind of something that I pick up a lot when I do photography of show dogs or animals at dog sport trials. The only way a dog can compete off of a leash with hundreds of people watching them is if when they were puppies, they were brought around that all the time. They're socialized and they're conditioned to it. You can do the same thing with photography, except you do it in a much shorter span of time. Say someone books you for an hour and it's an animal that has never seen a camera before. I'll always come in. I'll ask for the treats. I put my camera on the ground. Let them come check it out. That's also where the filters and all the protection is a very good idea. I'll let them check it out so they can see it's non-threatening.
Yes.
Now with mirrorless systems, we don't have to have a shutter noise. Some animals like the noise, some don't. But when I had a DSLR, I would have the camera on the ground, the animal would check it out, and I would click the button to make the noise. And every time the animal is not having a terrified response to it, you just hand them a treat and you keep treating them near the camera. So you make the entire experience positive. It's one of those things where photography really is something that can spread across not just pet photography, but portrait photography, wedding photography. Having a good positive experience with your photographer means that you're going to keep coming back to that photographer. Even though the pet's not the one who holds the wallet, the pet still needs to have a good time, because the last thing you want is for an animal to leave a photo studio terrified. You know that you're going to have the worst reaction next time that pet comes in.
Yep.
And you won't get good pictures either.
Exactly. So it's like have the toys, have the treats, and have high energy. Animal photography is very much high energy, and it's very positive voices and very positive energy. In the dog training world, we call it throw your dog a party. Every time they do something great, throw them a party, because the moment you're excited about it, they're also excited about it, which is also why I pay attention to the owners. If the owners are getting stressed because their pet's not doing something right, I immediately call a break, because the dog doesn't understand why the owner's frustrated. Dog doesn't get it.
Don't you just throw a treat at the owner at that point?
You know, I've tried a couple times. I've gotten in trouble a couple times. I heard it's really weird to throw chocolate chip cookies at people. You know.
Something I'm curious about is that I know that equestrian photography, when you photograph a horse, there are very specific poses that are expected, okay? Are there any other animals where you have to follow these guidelines? There are certain poses you put them in and certain you don't?
Show dogs.
Okay.
When you're photographing, say, a show dog, the vantage point you come in, it's very specific. I mean, it differs per breed, but generally speaking, it's all the legs parallel to one another, so you can see the full structure of the body. You actually never shoot from the dog's eye level, because the vantage point shows off the structure of that dog a lot better and a lot more traditional in the way that it's supposed to be.
Right.
You come in at the shoulder. I mean, dog showing conformation is long before any of our times is when that started. So we're still following a lot of the kind of traditions that started from back then, ranging from the way that people dress. If you were to see Westminster, when they used to have it at Madison Square Garden, it's a very specific dress. That comes from the tradition of it. The standards of how you capture these animals is going to be the same. Like a horse, you need a certain leg position, especially when dogs are trotting around a ring. It's basically the same leg positions as a horse, because if you capture a shot of the dog walking wrong, the dog's structure looks off.
Okay.
Because we're capturing that individual moment. It's the same as the in-between shot when you're doing portraits of a person. It can be the most beautiful person you've ever seen in your life, and you get that in-between shot, and you're like, oh gosh, I think, who was it, Beyonce that had that concert photo, the in-between photo? It was like the most unflattering concert photo we've ever seen.
Yeah.
And she's a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
But same thing happens to animals.
Except that they don't care.
No, it's their people. Oh, no, I've never had a dog complain or a cat or, okay, I've had some horses complain, but the dogs, not so much.
So what about using a flash? I mean, that must be really challenging.
I don't use flashes with animals personally. There's nothing against using a flash with an animal. I just don't. And the reason for that is after I got into like the dog sports and all that, and that's all outdoor natural light, we didn't even think about it. I started volunteering at my local animal shelter because a picture says 1,000 words. When it's just a cell phone photo of a dog, people don't tend to connect emotionally with a photo of that animal. So their adoption rates, unfortunately, plummet when it's a bad photo. But when it's a good photo and you see the eyes, that's it. But to get that beautiful photo, tried with the flash. But a lot of these animals come from really, really bad situations, and it's terrifying for them. And think about it this way. It can be harsh for a person, and we know it's coming. Imagine an animal that has no idea it's coming. It's a terrifying experience. So I had to learn how to use continuous light. And I kind of just stretched that on to now. And there's plenty of animals that are completely fine with flashes, but I also don't want it to turn into one of those situations where the animal is not okay with the flash and then going back to wanting the photo shoot to be a positive experience. You don't want that to be something that's terrifying for them.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But luckily, with us having mirrorless systems and very wide aperture lenses, it's totally okay to use continuous light. I actually use tube lights as like a rim light for my pet photography where I change them into a color. It's part of kind of like my marketing strategy with pet owners is that they walk into a studio and I go, what's your favorite color? And they'll say red or blue. And I go and I turn the tube lights into that color and they go, oh my goodness. And I go, what's your dog's favorite color? It's like, I think my dog's more of a teal dog. And then you turn them teal. So there's a lot of possibility there. But continuous light, I usually have an octagon softbox directly in front of my subject in a white light. And then I do tube lights in the back pointed towards the subject at an angle, do a little colored rim light. It's a lot of fun.
Just a fast anecdote. I had a friend, unfortunately, he's since passed, but he's one of the few Jewish people that I know who is into professional dog showing. And dog shows, there aren't too many Jewish people involved in that sport, but there was one guy at one of the big shows, and all of the dogs from this guy had names that were actually Jewish curse words. And when they announced the dogs' names, you could tell where the Jews in the audience were because you'd hear laughing because nobody else understood what was going on. And they were trying to pronounce these names, and you hear like people cracking up. Well, okay, Jew. So, I love that.
I mean, one of my really good friends had to get her dog's show name changed because the AKC decided that what the fox was offensive because the judges would sometimes mispronounce. It was a fox terrier. So, it's clever. But, yeah, it was supposed to be more family friendly. We said it is family friendly.
I saw a brilliant cartoon a few weeks ago. We're just going to talk about jokes now, folks. It was a picture of two dogs standing in front of a statue of a dog, okay? And the name of the dog is on the statue. And it's Housa Gudboi. Husa, good boy. And one dog says, yeah, that's the one they're always talking about.
Honestly,
Who's a good boy? There he is. That's him.
I personally think most of our pets have more than one name. It starts with like Fido or whatever, and then it turns into drop it, no, drop it. And dog's like, my name is Drop It. And you're like, yeah.
Any other thoughts you have on that you might want to share with our listeners?
As I mentioned, I don't have a niche, and it was actually a pretty common topic that popped up at the Sigma booth talking about, can you photograph more than one thing? Answer is absolutely. I'm a big believer in photographing anything that inspires you, anything that captivates you. You don't have to be stuck on one thing and feel like you can't expand, because I started with pet photography and I was very adamant that I was only going to photograph pets up until I was 18, and my friend was dating a rock star, and I happened to be the only one who knew how to use a camera at the time. And she spent months convincing me to do it when I kept saying, no, I photograph dogs. I will never have a person in front of my lens. And here we are. Now I photograph musicians. I'm about to go on tour with a band.
3 Dog Night, the animals.
Yeah. And it's like, it's incredible. So, and the awesome thing is that it cross promotes. A lot of the rock stars I photograph have pets. And then a lot of the pets have owners whose uncles or cousins are in a band.
Ain't that something, huh?
And it crosses everywhere. And then you get to do the family photos. So, you know what? Don't ever feel like you have to be stuck in one thing. You should photograph it all. And if anything, I'm a big believer in trying everything. I tried every genre of photography before I decided I like photographing living subjects. Dogs, cats, horses. I like photographing people, fashion. But I appreciate real estate photography. I appreciate architecture. It's not for me.
Gotcha.
But you know what? I wouldn't have known that had I not said yes and tried it.
That is the best attitude, seriously. And again, you never know where things can lead to. So that's a healthy piece of advice. That really is. If our listeners would like to see more of your work, animals and otherwise, where can they go to?
Just Google Anabel DFlux and you will find all of the things, because I checked many, many times. I seem to be the only one with such a unique name.
It's a great catchy name. It's really wonderful. And I strongly suggest that our listeners check out more of your work. And your site, the links will be in our show notes, so people will go click and actually see your work.
Oh, that makes it easier than typing things.
Yes.
We don't type things anymore.
No.
I mean, it was also very difficult for a long while with like Apple products to type in DFlux and do the voice command, because it just did not pronounce it correctly.
Ooh.
It was the same
What
reason.
about autocorrect?
Oh, it doesn't even try. It was the same situation as why what the fox wasn't allowed anymore. They've since updated that. But there was a little period of time where I used that as a bit of a marketing thing because it was so hilarious.
I think it's wonderful. Yeah.
You're like, you know what? This is the funniest thing I've ever heard. So let's do this.
Stick with it. It works. Anyway, Anabel, thank you so much for joining us here and talking with us. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Annabelle.
So this completes our coverage of B&H's 2023 Depth of Field Conference. We'd like to thank Ashok Sinha and Anabel DFlux for joining us in today's episode, in addition to all of the other photographers we interviewed during the show. And a special thank you goes out to our colleagues at B&H for assembling such an awesome group of speakers and orchestrating these large-scale events. If you're a fan of the podcast, make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. You can also find us on the B&H Explorer blog, where we post further details and photos from our guests, and on the B&H Photography Podcast Facebook group, where you can share your favorite photos and comments about the show. I'm your host, Alan Weitz. Jill Waterman is our senior creative producer. Episodes are recorded, mixed, and edited by technical producer Mike Weinstein. Our executive producer is Jeremy Weiss, and our editorial director is Sean Steiner. On behalf of the whole crew, thank you oh so much for tuning in today.
Thanks to Pelican for sponsoring this week's episode.